Telegraph, and Stephen Booth, Director of Policy and Research at Open Europe. Is there any policy and research on what's happening with Brexit at the moment?
Well, at the moment, I think it's all politics rather than policy. And as you say, we're seeing MPs changing parties, which I think is part of some degree of realignment of the political parties ahead of a general election, where ultimately the question is probably going to be, are we going to leave on the 31st of October, possibly without a deal, or are we going to extend and then likely towards a referendum and potentially remaining?
You making any sense of what's happening at the moment?
Not really. That's why I'm here. No, I just trying to follow what's actually going to happen. We've said this several times before over the last 2 years. Things are getting very confusing. There doesn't seem to be any clear way out. Now, I genuinely think that we are in a position where none of us can really know exactly what's going to happen. There seems to be a complete deadlock over there. And until this realignment actually happens, as Stephen just mentioned, and we work out where the balance of power lies, it's very difficult to see which side is going to win. I
mean, your correspondent, Mr. Foster, reporting repeatedly that really nothing is going on as far as Britain negotiating with the European Union, contrary to what we're being told in public.
Yes, Peter Foster's excellent in his knowledge of what's going on in the EU, so it's really useful to have read the newspaper and what he says about it. But as far as what's going on in Westminster, I think I share a lot of your view. It's frustration when I say that we still seem to be arguing amongst ourselves. What exactly are we going to put forward at the EU Council if we still can't decide what our position is as a nation?
Shouldn't the government actually be constructively negotiating it at the moment with the European Union?
I think it's nigh on impossible now, because I think what the EU was always going to do was to see what happened here in Parliament, and Parliament has effectively said we're not prepared to implement the result if it result might be no deal. And I think the Prime Minister is right to say to some degree it's very difficult to go into negotiation with the other side if they don't believe ultimately you are going to leave.
Now, Michel Barnier has cancelled a visit to Belfast on Monday, saying that he does believe that the UK Parliament is reaching a point where it actually knows what's going on. Does that feel like that to you?
Well, I think we're clearly heading towards an election. I think the key question is, when does that election take place? It seems that Labour Party can't make its mind up whether they'd like that election to be before the date at which they're asking the Prime Minister to extend Article 50 at the EU, or after that.
I mean, I have to say all the Labour MPs I'm speaking to are saying they think there should be a delay until after.
Yeah, I think the risk with that from their point of view is that the Prime Minister will be able to accuse them of saying, well, look, the question here is, do we leave on the 31st or not, and are we able to leave without a deal? And you're denying the people a chance to vote on that question in an election.
Do we need a general election? Would that help?
I don't see. Well, whether it'll help or not, I do not know. Because what if we have another hung parliament? We still can't decide as a country. But without it, I still don't see what we can achieve, what result we're actually looking at. Because let's not kid anybody. Even if this bill becomes act, we're only kicking the can further down the line. It's no deal is not going away completely. We're just going to have to make the same decision again on the 31st of January. What is that decision going to be? If I were the EU, I'd be very annoyed.
I mean, it does seem that the Prime Minister's strategies are really changing from day to day. First of all, it was prorogation, then it was threatening to, going ahead and punishing MPs who defied him. Now it's a general election. I mean, which is it?
I mean, I wouldn't characterise it as punishing. I think it looks quite, it looks quite ruthless. I'd grant you that. But if you have MPs on your side who are actively saying they'd rather not have you carry out these negotiations, what do you do?
Yeah, but my point is, I don't have an argument about the rights and wrongs. I'm just saying he seems to be moving forward through options very quickly, and it's not really clear which direction he's heading.
It seems like everyone's reacting, really. I mean, you might say that about Labour as well.
Yeah, but he's the Prime Minister. He's meant to be in charge.
But I thought the Labour narrative was to remove this dictator and take over control at Westminster. Now they don't want an election. What is actually happening?
Well, hang on. They laid down their bill, and they actually got it through Parliament,
yes,
which is
more
than the government is catered to do, and that was stating what they wanted to do.
I still don't understand what this so confident people think they have to lose. If they went to an election on the 15th, won it on the 16th, revoked Article 50 on the next
hang on,
day.
you yourself have just said that you don't think it was settled anything at a general election.
I said there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
But
so,
I'm not
so
Labour,
it might be a way. I mean, Labour might think it would be a waste of time and not in the national interest.
But Labour are saying they're absolutely confident the country hates the Prime Minister. I'm not saying that.
I think what Thea is saying, which is true, is no one can know what the result of an election would be.
Yeah.
But what we clearly have here is an impasse in Parliament with no majority for anything.
Yeah, but that's the point. We don't have to have an election. We do have a deadline a fast approaching of the end of October when we're leaving the European Union. Shouldn't we be dealing with that?
What is the delay for? Is it for a second referendum? Is it for a general election? What are the MPs who are blocking no deal? What is their plan? What is their constructive plan? And I think without an election, it's very hard to see how you do construct a majority for any positive action going forward, whether that's to remain in the EU after a referendum or to leave.
Well, hang on, isn't it clear what their plan is? Because they simply say we don't want to leave without a deal, and indeed most of them have been supporting the deal as stands agreed by Mrs May. So it's not about the charge that it's about trying to reverse Brexit doesn't apply.
Would the Labour Party support the deal as it stood? You still need a majority for something. And it's not clear that there is a majority for anything, which is why we're in this position.
The Labour Party's also made its position clear, has it not, which is that it does not support the present withdrawal agreement. On the other hand, it would seek to negotiate another, and it would then put that choice to the people in a referendum. I mean, that's a clear position.
That's their position, but I would contend that they would need a majority in Parliament in order to go down that route.
But it is also, it is also the Labour Party's contention that Keir Starmer, especially, that the EU has said time and time again, withdrawal agreement is not going to change. So if they believe that, what they're hearing from the EU, how can they think they have a better chance of negotiating a better deal than Mrs May did?
OK, thank you both very much indeed. I'm not sure we're any the wiser, but I know you're